Tom, you're kind of the industry expert here, and one, maybe give us just a brief background. Out of curiosity, how'd you meet Robert Kiyosaki? And then I've got a
Well,
follow.
let's talk about risk here. So I'd
Yeah.
started my CPA firm and we'd grown, and I'd added a partner, and then my partner and I broke up, and all the employees stayed with me, and half the clients went with him. So what that meant was that I had a lot of staff. They were well-trained staff. I didn't want to lose the staff. It's too hard to train staff. And so I went looking for more business. The easiest way to find business in my profession, CPA, is to buy a CPA firm. And so I actually got a postcard in the mail, said firms for sale. I called the number, asked about a couple of them. And one of them sounded really good because they did a lot of tax consulting with entrepreneurs. It turned out that one of the clients was Robert Kiyosaki. I had no idea who he was. I'd never heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Actually, the first thing I had to do, the seller said, the first thing you have to do is you have to read Rich Dad Poor Dad because he's kind of a big deal. This was back in 2001. So I did. I'm going, okay, well, this is interesting. I mean, I'd grown up with, my dad was an entrepreneur. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. So to me, Rich Dad Poor Dad is, well, yeah, well, duh, that's how it works. I mean, it wasn't this big life-changing thing. When I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'm going, well, yeah, doesn't everybody think that way? And it was cool to do that. But then Robert and I got to know each other, over the years. And then I do remember though, being on stage with him at the Paris in Las Vegas, and it was my turn to be up, and I was talking about how the tax law is a series of incentives, and he looked for entrepreneurs and investors. He looks at me and goes, "Really?" And it's like the light bulb went off. And after that, I was traveling all over the world with him. So it's actually been a really great relationship. He's a great mentor, and we share a lot of ideas and we learn from each other. And it's been fun. He's an interesting guy.
I bet.
I have to imagine, Tom, that's got to go down one of your best investments, buying that CPA firm.
And that's the thing. But my point of that story is you just don't know, right? Of course it was, but I didn't know that at the time. Yeah. I was actually trying to serve entrepreneurs. I was serving entrepreneurs. I wanted to give entrepreneurs the best tax advice that they could get. And the result was I opened myself up to Robert Kiyosaki. Had I instead let half the staff go, I'd have never met Robert Kiyosaki.
Well, I would say that's an example of kind of an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. You talked about the title of your book being win-win, right? There's two ways you approach that scenario. One is you cut staff, or two is you go out and find more business. So that's a testament to that.
You want to see the entire episode? Click here. If you want to learn how investors use infinite banking to increase their returns and lower their taxes, click here. If you want to see if infinite banking is for you and you have some questions, hop on a discovery call with us and one of our coaches. The link for that will be in the description.